All right, guys, welcome back to G Funk Boxing Talk, and I am G Funk, and I'm here with D Style Boxing and Chicano Profit. We're gonna do. We already got a flex show going down, huh? Is that what we got going on here? But yeah, man, we're here to talk about some pro wrestling today in the Monday Night Wars. This is gonna be now. Let me make this clear to you guys. All right, this is not what we think is the best moments of all time from the Monday Night Wars, because we know that there are certain iconic and big important moments that happened during this time period. During this time period. So this is just our favorite moments. So you're probably going to hear some moments from any of us that you're going to be like, damn, totally forgot about that. So I think that's going to be the good part of this list here, man. But since we're in a wrestling mood here, let me go ahead and hit you with my new intro here on the channel. That's right, from the one and only Conan of the Wolfpack, man.
Yeah,
So, you guys ready to do this thing or what?
For sure.
I was born ready.
I like that. We already got a few people here. We got Wheelchair Man John in the house. Thanks for tuning in, man. And we got A-Rod here that says, "Que onda, vatos?" What's up, bro? Thanks for joining us, man. Hopefully you guys stick around, and if you want, you could drop your top 5 moments if you're a wrestling fan, and if you have moments from this time period, put them in the chat, and I'll throw them on there as they come in. So let's get started with this first before we actually dig into our list. I want to mention a few things here about the Monday Night War. So the war started in, I believe, I want to say April of '95, once WCW went live with Nitro, and they went live. They weren't taped. At the time, Raw was taped. So, they went in and they right away came in taking shots. They're taped, we're live, and they wanted the world to know that. But the thing is this, around, I want to say 96 right around the time when the Outsiders made their invasion, WCW went on an 84-week winning streak, man. 84 weeks in a row. They beat WWF at the time, what is now WWE, but they beat them 84 weeks in a row in the ratings, man. What do you guys think about that?
Well, look, obviously that was unprecedented. WWE, you guys got to understand, Vince McMahon had raided basically and pillaged the entire scene in wrestling, all the territories. So he had a monopoly. Only he can have events like in the Northeast, like in Madison Square Garden, other arenas. So and if you guys know, WCW never had an event in Madison Square Garden for that reason. What I mean? It was hard for them to book events up there. So he had a lock in a lot of places, and given the fact that he absorbed and put and bought out or put out all the territories out of business, he had a lock in. It was a monopoly, and we all grew up. I mean, with the Hulk Hogan's and Ultimate Warriors, and so it was definitely unprecedented for another wrestling company. Now WCW was okay big, but the fact that they came in. They punched Vince in the mouth and they said, "We are here. We're here to compete. And guess what? We have somebody richer than you, Vince. Somebody that could buy you out, Vince. We got, billionaire Ted.
Billionaire Ted.
Billionaire Ted, Ted Turner. He was a huge wrestling fan, already owned a wrestling company, and he had a network for them to put it on TBS, later TNT. So they had all the structure was there, plus the money was the big thing. And the fact that they started going live changed the wrestling landscape forever. The only time there was really ever live events is if you actually went to a house show or like a closed circuit event. That's it. Like WrestleMania, SummerSlams, Survivor Series, and a couple in your house shows. That's it. They went live. They changed everything, and props to them.
Yeah, definitely a game changer. Chicano, what did you think about that, man? 84 weeks in a row. Or was it 84? Yeah, 84 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a long time. I could see why back in the day. I remember I didn't really know about the ratings back then, but to me, I did see a lot of my friends kind of taking more interest in WCW because of what was going on. I felt like with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash going over there, along with like the legends being there already, and then on top of that, like once the invasion happened, you got a slew of just like really fresh, good wrestlers coming in. It was a perfect time, and I think WWF took a little bit longer to get going. I could see why maybe it took a long time to kind of turn that tide.
Yeah, I want to say officially, WWF didn't even acknowledge there was a war going on until like December of '97. I think that was when Vince cut his famous promo where he said, "Look, the days of good guy versus bad guy, and eat your vitamins and your prayers."
Well, that wasn't the first time, though.
Well, it might not have been. But I think that's when they officially came out, and that's when he officially said, they changed it from Monday Night Raw to Raw is War, But if before that, go ahead and speak on that, man. And Bruce Goes, you're right. This is sort of the birth of that sports entertainment era here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Well, sports entertainment was just a name that Vince McMahon gave it because he didn't want to pay the boxing commission. You know what I mean? Which, if you think about it, why should have he? It was a predetermined sport. It wasn't a real sport. So why should he pay a commission? It made no sense. So he kind of changed it from that. Wrestlers did have to get a wrestling license, just like boxers do today. It's strangely enough, and the commissions pretended like they didn't know it wasn't fake, because they were getting money off of it, But as far as also the NWA. Vince broke away from that, weakened the NWA for sure. They eventually were dropped by WCW as well. But, with that said, that's another story. But Vince McMahon acknowledged that there was a quote-unquote war when he started doing those Billionaire Ted segments with an old Hogan, an old Macho Man. He was making fun of them. But I think he unintentionally let everybody know that Macho Man and Hogan were over there. You know what I mean? Like, whoever didn't know that was like, well, wait a minute. So they're over there? Because I remember there was a time where I felt as a kid growing up, like, where all the talent go? Like, I remember all these big mega stars, and now Hogan's gone. And I was a big Bret Hart fan, but I felt like he was like the only guy. And I felt like the roster was depleted. You could just feel it. And they didn't have the big mega stars, and at least that was a feeling. So I think that's when he recognized it, and then he stopped doing it. You know what I mean? And then he kind of they try to do the whole let's pretend they don't exist thing, and then you're right. After that, he said, you know what, Raw is War. You know what I mean? And that declared the Attitude Era, and that was a turning point.
Those were some funny things that they did. I remember they were spraying down Macho Man's head in one of those videos, man.
I like them too. They were funny.
Yeah, but speaking of streaks, man, to end this quick little topic here.
Oh, real quick, I apologize. Real quick, I still remember they had an ad, right? They still had the old logo, and they had like a younger, hipper, and I think fresher, something like that. Like they had like a little. It was a new generation. That was the name.
Yeah, New Generation.
The new generation and younger, hipper, in their prime. Like, that they were throwing shots at the old guys, but we all wanted to watch the old guys. You know what I mean? Like, I decided.
They were still over, definitely, man. But the streak, the longest streak for WCW in this time period was 84 weeks. Check this out. WWF ended the whole run pretty much with a 110-week winning streak. Wow. and they were dominating the ratings at that time, and they were doing big numbers. And then they ended up buying out WCW, and then the war was over. They won the war. But as far as that goes, I want to ask you guys this real quickly. What side were you guys on during this time period? Were you on WCW or were you on WWF?
Whoa.
Chicano. I don't know what happened there.
He'll come back on, but I was a WWF guy. You know what I mean? And I got to tell you, 97 especially was probably the best year in the history of wrestling. Like, because WWE had, they were starting to put on some good stuff around that time. The Bret Hart, HBK had their feud going on, Kane's debut, and the Hell in the Cell was introduced. And I feel like they had some of their best stuff in years. And they were still losing to WCW in the ratings, but I still give them props for that. And WCW was on fire in '97 as well. Black and White, Sting and the NWO, and a lot of great stuff, man. And but yeah, I was a WWF guy though. I knew though, '96 especially, and like a little after Bret Hart left, like I felt like, or even during the time that Bret Hart was there, I kind of knew WCW had a better product. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, they have the cruiserweights over there. I just, like, I knew that, but I was too much of a hater. You know what I mean? I was WWF all day, every damn day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I you know what? At the beginning, I was right there with you, man. I was like more of a WWF guy. But what kind of caught me and what kind of took me away, because I started actually going to WCW shows, like over here in Sacramento where I'm from, there wasn't a whole lot of WCW shows coming out here, whether it would be any type of show, house show, whatever. It wasn't until they started winning the ratings war that they started to come out here more to the West Coast into this area. And I have to say, man, the reality based and clicking up of these wrestlers, and then they taking on the gangster type imagery and the hip hop sayings and things like that. That's what kind of took me over to WCW for a little bit. But once the war was about even for a little bit, when neither guy was like kind of going back and forth, who was winning week to week. I mean, it was back and forth, and then I had, whether depending on what was going on, I would have Raw on in the front TV or Nitro, and then I would have the other one being taped in the other room, just so I could go back and watch. We're waiting on Chicano to come back. He says he lost the Wi-Fi, so we'll just go ahead and yeah. So for me, the Monday Night Wars, what it meant to me, and I'm gonna ask you the same thing, D-Style, before we get into our list.
Sure.
I mean, it made Mondays a hell of a lot better. I mean, man, let me tell you, for a guy I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old at the time, like, Mondays were a fucking drag, dude. Let me tell you, man. I want to get up and go to school after the weekend and all that type of stuff. But because wrestling was so damn good at the time, man, I looked forward to Mondays. I mean, every week. And then not only that, my whole family that's how good the storylines were for both sides. Like, my entire family, my mom, my sister, they're not wrestling fans at all. They were there with me and my dad, watching every Monday night, and then once it went into Thursday nights also. But go ahead, man. Let me know what it did for you, man.
Well, one, there was a sibling war because my brother wanted to watch Nitro. I wanted to watch, Raw. You know what I mean? And at this time, we only had one television in the living room. You know what I mean? I didn't have a TV in my room, but I was working with my uncle in the summer, and I actually saved up to buy a TV, and I finally had a TV in my room. You know what I mean? And I was able to watch Raw. But man, I just there's a lot of things that happen in that time. But like, I remember, like, my brother buying the wrestling magazine. I don't know, like, was it Wrestling Observer or something like that? And he would always, we would look and see who's the number one wrestler this month and like stuff like that. And so there was a lot of, similarities in terms of with myself and other people I know, you know what I mean? And, my whole school watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my whole, you even had those dudes that like, I don't like the wrestling book, but I like the promos though. I like it when they talk shit. And like, okay, you liked it then, you know what I mean? Like, and there was times, bro, where Sable was the most popular character in all of wrestling, where like the Kevin Nash even says, if Sable was on TV, we didn't put our biggest segment on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We were going to beat him in that segment. You know, like we're not gonna put like Sting versus somebody when Sable's on TV. So it wasn't just about the wrestlers; it was the characters in general, and we all know why people were watching Sable. Okay,
Oh yeah.
but
Did you have the Playboy? I'll ask you that. The first one
Yeah.
that she did. Yeah, I got it. I still got it somewhere.
I got the one with her and Tori Wilson together and shit. You know what I mean? Tori Wilson one, I got it right here. I just can't show it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got you.
I'll get it right now. But I'll just show the cover. But I gotta tell you, man, the over like 10 million people at one point were watching wrestling.
Yep.
Like, I know the WCW ratings weren't that good, quote unquote, but they're better than the WWE's are now. You know what I mean? Like people, a lot of people don't talk about that. The ratings were not that bad. You know what I mean? But what I remember is how everyone watched it. But what I remember is when even my uncles would bring it up, like, man, did you see that Mankind match where he fell out of the cage?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Did you see Stone Cold, what he did? Like he attacked his boss, bro. I wish I could attack my boss. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was just, that's the thing, man. It's just, I just remember it was the thing. Dude, like, they didn't give a shit. Like, they were like Monday Night Football. I remember watching a football game once, and there was two, like, football players kind of like wrestling with each other, like, because, you know, they had to separate them apart. And the announcer goes, I forget who it was, but he goes, man, these guys are wrestling each other. They got to break them apart. And the other guy goes, yeah, we don't say wrestling live on the air on Monday Night Football. It was not. They had to compete with ratings. You know what I mean? Monday night belonged to wrestling. Okay. Cable companies loved wrestling. You know how many parents got cable just for the kids, just because of Monday Night Raw, just because of Nitro?
Yeah.
That's all I watched the whole week. All I watched was Monday night, and then when Thunder and SmackDown were on. That's it. So, to me, it's a lot of memories, a lot of good stuff.
Yes, great memories, man, for sure. A-Rod here says he was on Team WCW, or I should say, like Hunter Hearst Helmsley used to say it, WCW wrestling. You know, it's all good, man. So now we're gonna get into our list. Hopefully, Chicano gets his Wi-Fi fixed, that Taco Bell Wi-Fi, so we can get back on here and share his list with us. But top 5 favorite moments from the Monday Night War. Let's start with number 5, D-Style. You are up, man. What do you got for us?
Hey, check it out, right? The birth of Mr. McMahon, bro, okay?
Ooh, nice one.
Mr. McMahon was just a commentator, okay? It wasn't revealed on camera that he was the owner. You know what I mean? Never was. Like, you know, that they had different guys, you know, like that Tunney dude that was the president, and those were just characters on TV. After the Montreal screw job, Vince McMahon does the Bret screwed Bret. And you know what, bro? I remember I was so mad. I was angry. I wanted to beat him up, and I couldn't wait for somebody to get their damn hands on Mr. McMahon. I wanted Bret Hart to come out and punch him again because he had the black eye, but it was genius. I don't know if it was on purpose, but my God, that was genius. But that is number 5 for me, man. The birth of Mr. McMahon, when it was revealed that he was the owner and chairman, and he did that interview and he said, Bret screwed Bret.
Yeah. With a black eye. Because the night before, the guy got punched in the eye by Bret Hart for the Montreal screw job. Yep. Wheelchairman John says when his little brother was born, he was watching Raw in the hospital. That is hardcore, man. All right, so we got the birth of Mr. McMahon, the character of Mr.
Power
McMahon.
McMahon, bro. Like, no chance. It even made the Wi-Fi work. Right?
You know, that would have been in my top 5 as well, but I already knew he was the owner because I don't know if you guys remember this, but when Brutus Beefcake had his accident in the early 90s where he got his face fractured, it was actually in the newspaper here, and my mom read it to me, and it said, you know, chairman, whatever, and I remember I didn't understand what that word meant, and it said Vince McMahon. I said, well, wait a minute, what does that mean, Vince McMahon? She goes, well, he's the owner of it. That's what that means. And I was like, but he's just the guy that talks during the matches, you know? So
Somebody had to tell you Santa wasn't real, G Funky. It is what it
yep. Chicano Prophet,
What's happening?
number
Sorry about that,
5,
you
bro.
guys.
It's
Number
all
5
good,
for-
man.
Thanks. Number 5 for me is in July 2197, the Heart Foundation in Canada. So there was a stint where they went from the United States to Canada, the United States to Canada. And as a kid, I really remember enjoying the Heart Foundation, even though there was like this nationalistic pride movement of Canada versus USA, which the crowd really bought into, and which I thought was really just awesome, you know. And well, when he was in Canada, the Heart Foundation, they just had the crowd eating out of their hand. Nothing but Bret Hart signs everywhere. The only like Shawn Michaels sign I saw was like HBK won't job, you know. So it was really nice, you know, and it was great to see them, you know, just have a heel run. I think Bret Hart had a really good underrated heel run. Pissed
Yeah,
off
he
about
did.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, he was just like born to have like a chip on his shoulder, you know. So he was really good at being pissed about things, and he was speaking a lot of truth. And even if you listen to it now, I mean, he has some interesting things to say about his perception towards like America and Canada and what was going on at the time, you know. And that episode was awesome, especially when they had like this challenge towards any Americans that might show up. And this was when Stone Cold was starting to get hot. And I remember really being impressed by Stone Cold because he was talking mad mess. And he's like, well, I'm going to go for it anyways. Like, I'm going to go in there, even though there's just 2 of us against you 3. And he brought along his partner, Mankind, who he didn't even like having as a partner. And they were just going to go in there and try to wing it until the Undertaker came. So that was one of my favorite moments, seeing that back and forth. And because I thought the Hart Foundation was just an excellent faction and had just a lot of good guys in there that held up. You know what I mean? They had, before Bret even had his belts or got back his championship belt, I mean, you know, other guys were wearing gold. Very formidable.
Yes, and hey, good moment there too, man. And you know what the thing is, what you said about Bret is when people talk about Bret's legacy overall in the wrestling business, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the guy, the excellence of execution, like there's just no doubt about that. But the one thing that people said was that his promos weren't that great. I think it was around that time where you just mentioned right now, where they turned him heel, and then he had something to bitch about, you know, like it was good, man. He was really good on the mic, you know, once he had something to complain about. And I think that's when he did his best work on the mic right there. I mean, wrestling, I mean, he knocks it out of the ballpark every time.
You know what worked about it? It was partially true. Those were his feelings. You know,
Yep.
like he really didn't understand why people were rooting for this Stone Cold guy. You know, he went along with it because he knew it was working, but you know, that's why it worked.
Yeah, definitely. So on to my number 5 now. And this one is I guess you could say it's kind of a big moment, you know, and in a lot of people's opinions would probably be somewhere in a list like this. But I thought it brought some good reality and some, how do I say this? For me, it was a little, I don't know, man. I guess just reality, I guess is what I would call it. But there's an episode in late 98, when DX, we had Hunter, we had China, we had the New Age Outlaws, and X-Pac. They go and they put on their army outfits and their hats. They get on the tank and they go to invade Nitro, man. That's my number 5 moment. They said, you know what? You guys wanted to act like our guys went over there and invaded, but they really signed to you guys and nobody knew it. Well, guess what? We're WWF. There's no doubt about it. We're going to go over there to Nitro and we're going to invade Nitro. And they drove in there and they were interviewing people, asking them what they thought about WCW. And they actually went down to one of the loading dock areas of that arena that they're in there knocking. Like they were really trying to get into Nitro, you know? And from my understanding, Bischoff he said that some of the wrestlers there for WCW were saying like, you know, hey, let him in. Let's bring him in. And he was told by the big heads there at the network not to do it. But man, that would have been something if they let him in, you know?
I remember that. I remember I got my tickets for free. Your tickets for free. And I remember that. I remember that was terrible for them. Like a fan and many got free tickets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was sold out over there, you know. And then I remember it's like I think that they did a documentary about DX, and they all admitted like we don't know what would happen if they would let us in. Like, you know, we were just kind of like going with it. So
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about that segment too. It's like, yeah, it didn't end with them seeing the WCW guys, but it's awesome that they went for it. The DX faction had a lot of really good humor, a lot of comedic moments, and yeah, I mean Triple H did a really good job kind of leading that faction after Shawn Michaels retired.
Yeah, and I didn't think Hunter had it in him like that, man. But props to him, man, because Shawn Michaels, we know he was already a legit guy. It was over, but props to Hunter, man. So, all right, let's head on to number 4 now. D-Style, my main man, you're on deck. What you got for us, man?
What this was to me could have been. It was actually when you first told me about the show. Honestly, I thought, "Oh, that's number 1." I mean, but as I went over some stuff, like 3 other ones, like beat it out a little bit. But this was the first one I thought about, though. I mean, and it's the NWO taking over, beating up the entire WCW roster. Okay. And the one moment where Kevin Nash picks up Rey Mysterio and darts him into the damn trailer, and then like the cops show up and the ambulance, and what people don't know is they weren't supposed to show up. People living in the surrounding areas were calling the cops thinking there's some gang activity going on. You know what I mean? And the cops just showed up and it just like worked out. But I just remember like Rey Mysterio coming out of the trailer, right? He like jumps, Kevin Nash catches him and just darts him. You know what I mean? And Ray, man, he took a hit because Kevin Nash is like 7 feet tall, bro. Ray is like 4 feet tall. You know what I mean? But he tossed him, he falls to the ground, no matter, nothing. But like, hey, props to all the WCW dudes. Like, did a good job. Like, it was just like 4 or 5 guys, and they were making them look great. Like they were getting beat up, like the whole roster, bro. You know, so props to them. And that's, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that's the first time they took out the spray paint and all that good stuff, man. So yeah. That to me, that's number 4 to me. Big moment right there.
Huge moment for sure, man. And we might talk about that a little later. We'll see. All right, on to the Prophet himself, man. Hey, what you got for us, number 4, man?
For me, number 4, and this is one that I found really amusing when I was younger, and I still think it's funny, is Mark Henry, Looking for Love. Sexual Chocolate coming in at number 4. And man, I remember this one episode that made me laugh so bad. It was Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown were getting ready for some tag team action, but Terry and Jackie were inviting Mark Henry to a little bit of a 2-on-1 match in the back locker room. So he was getting all excited about it. D'Lo thinks it's a bad idea naturally, probably a hater. But Mark Henry ended up going back there and getting comfortable, getting to his silk red drawers, getting more comfortable, getting tied up. And then those 2 chicks just started whipping on him, and not in a sexy way. Had his balls in a vice grip. And to add insult to injury, D'Lo was getting his ass beat by the headbangers, I think. So, I mean, it was just like a really funny segment, in my opinion. I watched it just to kind of reacquaint myself with it, and it was still pretty funny. And those girls were laying it on him, and that's when they christened their own little faction, PMS. So that's my number 4.
That is good, funny stuff, man. Mark Henry's Sexual Chocolate character was hilarious, man. We had a friend of ours in high school who looked like him. Not as big as him, but had a look like him. And, I mean, we would be all in the hallways in high school like, hey, there goes Sexual Chocolate. Oh, good shit there, man. So, all right, my turn. Number 4. Now, this was one of those moments, big moment during the war, and what I feel was a wasted opportunity for WCW. They decided to do this. They decided to book this match on Monday night instead of a pay-per-view, when I believe they could have, they could have maybe broke some records with this one here, man. But they decided to do it on a Monday night. And you know, the thing is this, man, I was okay with it at the time because I was fed up with the run that Hollywood Hogan was having. So my number 4 moment is when Goldberg beats Hollywood Hulk Hogan for the world title in what it was his hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, in front of 30, 40,000 people in the Georgia Dome. I mean, Goldberg was as hot as hot can be, man. And boy, they blew that, man, because they could have built that into something special, I think. Huge pay-per-view, huge numbers they could have done with that. But what really put that over the top for me, especially now that I'm older and I know a little bit more about the actual business side of wrestling. But at the time, I was wondering this. Right before the ending of that match, Kurt Hennig comes walking out, you know? It looks like he's going to come out to try to help Hollywood Hogan beat Goldberg. And then next thing you know, DDP and Karl Malone come out there. Karl Malone from the NBA, for those that don't know that. They come out walking right behind him. And right as soon as it looks like Kurt Hennig is going to roll inside and do something to Goldberg to help Hollywood win, he gets turned around by Malone, and the man gives him a diamond cutter right there on the ground. And now I understand why they brought Kurt Hennig out there, because, again, this is a guy, Karl Malone, who's never wrestled before in his life. So who better to send out there to take a bump from somebody and make him look like $1 million than Kurt Hennig, man? One of the best workers in the business. But that's my number 4 moment right there, man.
Okay.
So, number 3, D-Style. You ready?
Absolutely.
All right, what you got for us, man?
Dude, this moment is epic. All right. I remember when I watched it, and I thought that this is. All I could say was, "Wow, this is awesome," you know. And I believe WWF was already winning the ratings war at this time, but Stone Cold, I believe it was a Miller Lite truck. Okay. Shows up in a Miller Lite truck, bro. And like the whole corporation got washed down. I think they were already like the corporate ministry. I don't remember that, but I don't know if there was just a corporation or corporate ministry at that point, but comes out and man, the whole McMahon family and the faction, bro. And I remember The Rock just standing there like, what the hell? Because, The Rock was all flamboyant. He did a good job selling it, but I got to tell you, man, that was a hell of a moment, man. The beer truck moment. Now, this was not during the Monday Night Wars, but when Kurt Angle did it with the milk truck, that was awesome.
Yeah.
that was awesome. That was awesome television. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? That was great.
That actually happened here at Arco Arena, at the old Arco Arena, when Kurt Angle came out with the milk truck. Yeah. And I'm to this day, because that was such a small building compared to what we have now at the Golden One Center, I still don't know how they were able to drive that truck through there and down the aisle for them to spray all those people down with milk.
Stone Cold, he wasn't like driving carefully either, like like freaking hitting the brakes and shit. He was like, dude, he could have like. Looking back, they would not do that today. You know what I mean? Too dangerous, but they did it, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, I feel like they pulled off a lot of things live. And looking back, I'm like, wow, it went really well considering they only had one take to do it, and that was one of them that just went very well for them.
For sure, man. So Chicano, you ready for number 3, bro?
Yeah, number 3, and we're going to get into combat sports a little bit. My number 3 moment is the Brawl for All, which started taking place in June of '98. Now, y'all can laugh, and I know it. When people look back on it, it was a shit show. But at the time, I thought it was really cool. And for people who don't know, it was like a shoot tournament for maybe some of the lesser known people to kind of get in the ring, and it was like these weird rules. Like if it was a takedown, you get 5 points. If you get the most punches, 5 points. Knockdown, 5 points. 1 minute rounds. Completely optional for people, and many people actually did end up getting into it, and it was just fascinating for me to watch because I mean they kind of did tell you that they were trying to indirectly tell you that it was real, and I wasn't so sure myself, but as things picked up week to week, it did seem very real, and I thought it was excellent watching the knockouts. There was a lot of aspects that I thought were cool about it at the time, like Jerry the King and JR and even Shawn Michaels were really giving credit to these guys, also talking about what they would do. So they were commentating on this fight while trying to figure out what the rules were, if it was a takedown or not. It was kind of a shit show at the time, but I thought it was pretty funny. I also think it was great that the Godfather kept his Godfather persona while he was going through these matches, just saying, I will knock you out, and he's got the hose behind him. And in this, I think it was the semifinals when he went up against Bart Gunn, he actually just said, well, I'm not going to offer you the hose. I'm just going to do it. So, I mean, he tried to keep that character, which I thought was really cool. Hearing about like what went on at the time, now it's nice to kind of reflect and see what people were thinking like behind the scenes about how JBL thought he could whip anybody. And so, I mean, you had a lot of other people in there that also had something to say about it. You had like Steve Blackman. You had some other people like Dan Severn who had MMA type skills. Mark Merrill was a Golden Gloves champion, and it was just a lot of interesting dynamics. I thought the knockouts were good. I thought the stare downs before the fights were good, and I really enjoyed the ending. So that's my my top three.
Brawl for All was definitely something, and at the time, I really loved it at the time because this is a boxing channel. We all three of us have boxing channels here, so we love boxing. We love wrestling, so it's like a combination of both, I guess. That's the way I looked at it. And man, Bart Gunn had some of the smoothest knockouts, man. I mean, that knockout he had of the Godfather. I mean, dude was face first on the canvas, and then his knockout of JBL to win the whole thing, and he's twitching. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but like his feet are kind of twitching. Like he was out of there.
Man, let me tell you something, bro. Dan Severn would have won that thing, but he pulled out because he wanted no part of Bart. He ducked Bart Gunn, bro. Okay, like I'm a real, like he literally said, he admits that he couldn't take a risk losing.
Yeah,
because he wanted to go back to MMA. You know what I mean? It would have been a bad look for him if he lost a real fight to a professional wrestler. You know what I mean? So he pulled out, and I think Steve Blackman had like an injury. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He pulled out, and Godfather got back in.
He might have won.
A lot of injuries.
But I'll tell you what, man. The reason Vince Russo did it is because Bradshaw was backstage saying, if this was real, I beat all of you up. And so that's why he did it, man. That's why he did it.
Yep. And Shamrock was offered to be in there, too, who was also a real UFC fighter at the time. And he flat out said, look, am I going to get time to train for this thing or what? Like, they're like, train? Like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, well, this is a real fight.
He would have won, bro.
Yeah, he would have kicked ass for sure.
And I definitely think the aspects of like people that like you ever hear about like when your friends are about to get in a boxing match or your coworkers are going to do it. It's a very fascinating aspect. So kind of looking back on it now, seeing people who had the backgrounds that they did, and the wrestlers were different back then. There were a lot of tough guys compared to maybe now. So it was fun to kind of watch those matchups again with new eyes and analyze the sweet science. Like I was looking at well, you can call it the sweet science, whatever it is, but like Dan Severn, for example, like man, he would just like hold on to a person, and just would not let go. Like he, but there was nothing they could do to break him up. So he was just like, penalize him, but they don't really know how. Like it was really interesting to see how they didn't really know what they were doing. And so, I mean, it kind of makes for fascinating television, in my opinion.
Yeah. And what was disappointing to me was that Mark Merrill was a guy who won the Golden Gloves tournament in Buffalo, New York, and didn't do a damn thing in that tournament. I was hoping he would at least make some noise for boxing, but he did absolutely nothing in that tournament. And you're right, Bruce goes, Dr. Death they were trying to set him up to win that thing for sure, man. So I'm going to go into my number 3.
Why didn't they just script it? You know what I mean? Like if you wanted him to win, just tell Bart Gunn, hey, we're going to give you another 20 grand. Just,
take a dive.
Yeah, like it's wrestling. Mm-hmm. But hey.
Yep. So my number 3 is I guess you could say a WCW invasion before the actual storyline was written once WCW was bought by Vince McMahon. And this was one of my favorite moments because I always liked the cruiserweight guys in WCW. They really had gold there with those cruiserweights that they had at the time. Problem was the good old boys, wanted all the limelight, wanted all the money. So these guys said, hey, you don't like what we do, then we're going over to WWF. And my number 3 moment during the war was the debut of the Radicals, man. We had Benoit, we had Eddie Guerrero, we had Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn. And I thought it was pretty cool the way that they did it, because they had the New Age Outlaws in there, and I forgot who they were in there against, but I think they were the champions at the time. The ringside, Road Dogg's the spot. Road Dogg ends up going outside, and he ends up right there in front of him because these guys are front row, and he looks and he's like, okay, like, what do you guys do? They end up taking a swing at one over, and then boom, all hell breaks loose. They go in there and they destroy the New Age Outlaws. Eddie Guerrero comes in and does a big frog splash. Benoit off the top rope with the flying headbutt. It was great stuff, man. But it was good to see those guys finally come over And I mean, they got a nice pop too once that happened, and well deserved stuff for those guys, man, because they really carried. I think they carried WCW for a lot of shows and a lot of big pay-per-views, man. They were always coming out there putting on good matches, and the fans appreciated it, man. You can see it. It's just too bad WCW couldn't acknowledge the talent that was there. I mean, these guys would be having a killer match, and then you'd have Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan talking about what the NWO is going to do later while a great match is going on. Like that just always bothered me, man.
Just to quote Scott Hall, and I'm a big Scott Hall fan, but they asked him about when like Eddie left, and because it was like a big thing backstage, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, he literally says out of his own mouth, he's like, I mean, nobody missed him, bro. Like this, but like, dude, aren't you acknowledging you guys ended up losing the war? Like, you know what I mean? For shit like that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I love Scott Hall too, man. I thought his characters, Razor Ramon and just Scott Hall and the NWO, I mean, those were great characters, and they were over for a long time. But, he's just one of those guys. He cared about money. And he said that too, because I don't care about winning belts. I just cared about making money. And he had a nice contract there when he went over to WWE.
A lot of guys didn't think like him, but to him, it was like, okay, I'm hot. I'm over with the crowd. Give me some more money and I'll put your dude over. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, and he made money that way. So props to him.
Absolutely, man.
And another thing, we're looking before I forget, because this is awesome. He said he was at a bar once. So when he was Razor Ramon, he was at a bar, and some dude, I don't know if it was because he lost to the 1, 2, 3 Kid or somebody else, like told him, he's like, yeah, some guy was like, you lost to that little fucking nobody. Like, and Scott, you know what Scott Hall told him? He goes, well, I'll fuck you up. What do you think he'll do to you? So they were still like selling the whole wrestling thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Kayfabe was still a thing, man. And, maybe we'll do another video about that, about the Click breaking kayfabe for the first time. That's a good topic to talk about, but we'll move on here. Number 2, we're getting close, man. We're getting close to number 1, and I have a feeling we'll have some good moments here coming up these next 2. So, and the honorable mentions. Make sure you guys stick around for that. D-Style, number 2, man. What you got for us?
First of all, I completely forgot about the Radicals thing. That's why things like this are awesome. Check out. Mm-hmm. You already mentioned it, but this is my number 2, man. This is a big, big moment. Georgia Dome, right? And the crowd was like chanting Goldberg, and they were smart enough to put him in twice in that card. They had him go in against Scott Hall and then against Hogan. I could have done without the Kurt Hennig, Karl Malone part. I think they should have just let the match be a match and leave it as a classic without all that. They could have had Karl Malone DDT this dude another time. You know what I mean? But that was an awesome match. Goldberg admits it. He's like, I just followed Hogan's lead, and he worked his magic, and I trusted him, and good thing, and they made it happen. It was one of those, like, and wrestling does this when they do it right. Like, it's coming, but is it really coming? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, are they really going to put the belt on Goldberg? And I remember, I don't know if it was Shivani or who was really selling it. Like, this is the only undefeated, world champion in history. He's going to make history. The man, and what made it work is that Hogan was getting offense on Goldberg that no one else did because he was running through everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it gave you that feeling like, oh, Goldberg's in a match now. He's in there with the world champ now. Not like Hogan's a big dude too. He's knocking him down. Then he landed the leg and stuff. And maybe the reason they did the Kurt Hennig part was because that probably made people say, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? The NWO is going to come out and interfere, and Hogan's going to win. And so maybe that's why they did it. But Goldberg wins. He went clean over Hulk Hogan. It was big. They needed something to win the ratings because they had lost the ratings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this one, they won the ratings, and I think they won it for a couple more weeks after that. So it was a big moment for them. And I think it's a big moment for Goldberg's career. As big as Goldberg was, he got even bigger. He went from arguably the biggest name in the roster at the time, because there was Sting, there was some other guys that were popular, you know. There was Kevin Nash was actually kind of popular at the time too, but but that moment, he went from arguably to he's definitely the biggest name in wrestling right now. You know what I mean? So that was big, man. And I tuned in and I watched that. I was not watching WWF. And you know what, Chicano, did you watch this match, or were you watching? I think the Undertaker was on the main event on the other side.
No, I did watch it. That was actually one of the times where I did end up watching it, and it was actually going to be one of my honorable mentions. And you make a good point about just kind of assuming that Goldberg wasn't going to be able to pull it off because there was going to be some kind of shenanigans. So right. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, they did do that part right in a way. So I mean, I remember being very stunned, and excited for Goldberg. So that was a cool moment for sure.
Definitely, man. And people always rag on Hogan about not being such a good worker in the ring, but he made Goldberg, who was green could be, made as green as this L on my shirt at the time. Yeah. He made Goldberg look like $1 million that night, man. He really did. And Scott Hall too, because Scott Hall is we talked about how he's all about the money thing, but the guy can work too, and and he had a real good match with Goldberg earlier in that same show, man. It was exciting for me to see Malone do that because I was a big NBA fan. They had just came off the NBA finals, Karl Malone against Michael Jordan in the finals, and then Rodzilla was coming. I believe it was like next week or something. It was when Bash at the Beach happened, where they had that tag team match with the Hulkster and Rodzilla, and then DDP and Karl Malone. So that's what made it a little more exciting for me, was to see Karl Malone come out there and do the diamond cutter. Yeah. All right, Chicano. Number 2, man. Let us know what you got, man.
For sure. Number 2 for me is December 8th, 97. Sable disrobes. Had to mention that one. It was a real big one for me. I remember I was 13 at the time, and Sable was getting very popular. And Mark Merrow knew it, and he was kind of playing like the chauvinistic man, just didn't like all the attention that Sable was getting because she hasn't done anything, and so he started belittling her. And so she came out in a potato sack, and he took her out there and was humiliating her. And after humiliating her, he told her, like, why don't you disrobe me? Instead, she disrobed, and she was wearing this bikini that basically showed everything but the nipples. And let me tell you, being 13, like at the time, that was about as good as it gets.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh yeah. So, and she was friendly. She was waving like, enjoy the view. And I sure did. And it still holds up as a very good scene for me. And it quite a push by both of them to kind of make that choice to get her that type of attention. So I thought it was great. And it's not just the guys. In that same episode, Shawn Michaels was talking about how he might strip the boy toy, and the girls were screaming. So the girls are cochinas too.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Sable was red hot too, man, at the time. And I'm not just talking about her looks. I'm talking about just the character. Mm-hmm.
She was the most popular character on TV on Monday night for a while.
Yep. And then they turned her heel too shortly after that. People don't remember that, but she should go out there and do the grind and, badmouth the women and stuff like that,
It's wild.
Yeah, that's a good moment though, man. That's a real good moment, and that helped out Mark Merrow too, because he was kind of falling off, at the time. He's one of those guys that Johnny B. Good before he just became Mark Merrow, the boxer, and he was he turned marvelous. That's right, marvelous. Yep. Mark Merrow, and he was kind of phasing out a little bit, and Sable gave him a little bit of spark at the end there, All right, so I'm going to get into my number 2 now. This was already mentioned by my main man, D-Style, all right, in his a few moments prior to his number 2 that he just told us. But it's the moment when the NWO, or I should say the Outsiders, attacked WCW backstage. Now, here's what I remember what made it so good to me. Not only the fact that, like you said, people in the surrounding area that were watching actually did call the police, because they made it look so good, man. The production value was just, top of the line for WCW at the time, man. But what really sold it to me was there was a match going on. It was 2 members of the Dungeon of Doom, I believe, against Sting and Lex. And then out of nowhere, Jimmy Hart comes running out and he's screaming at the dude. Jimmy Hart's got that weird, annoying voice. Anyways, like, hey, they're doing something. He's like yelling, and then like, the commentators finally acknowledge him. Like, what's he talking about? You know, and he's yelling. He's saying, they're the outsiders. They're out there and they're beating up guys with bats, and then like they literally stop the match. Like nobody wins that match. They stop the match, and like they're all looking around like, what's he talking about? They finally get out and they walk back there. Then that's when they see the cameras are there. They're beating up on, I think it's Hugh Morris or no, one of the body guys, whoever was a tag partner with what's his name, Bagwell, Marcus Bagwell, the other guy who was his tag partner at the time. They're beating him up on the ground. Ray comes out of the trailer and dives off. Kevin Nash catches him and darts him into the trailer. For me, I was just like, man, like I really thought that those guys were invading. Like I really thought that Razor Ramon and Diesel, you know, because that's what I knew at the time. I didn't even know their real names really at the time.
Oh,
I was thinking Razor Ramon and Diesel, these guys are really showing up to WCW and beating these guys up. Like I called my dad on the phone. Like as soon as I see that, I called him on my phone. I said, Dad, you will not believe this. Like Razor and Diesel, they're over there at WCW. They're beating up guys. He's like, what are you talking about? They're not in WCW. And I said, I'm telling you, like I got it on tape. I'll bring it to you. I'll show it to you, you know? And like he could not believe it either. Like it was so good, man. The way that they were running that invasion angle, man, was brilliant. And for me, that was my number 2 best moment, man. And Ray took a hell of a bump, man. He took one hell of a bump there, you know?
and to add to something you're saying, G-Funky, I mean, if you remember the line, like, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Like, you know what I mean? So that was the worst Cuban accent ever. But what I'm trying to get at is Razor Ramon, like we knew it was Razor Ramon. He just couldn't say it. You know what I mean? But Vince took him to court, bro.
Yeah.
Took him to court. Like Vince was not, like behind the scenes, he was playing hardball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what's funny is there's I forgot, but I did see some documents as I was watching some of the Monday Night War videos on the network recently, but they show little clips of the documents there from the lawsuit that was filed, and it did say like he's using the accent, you know, he's wearing a vest, and he's, you know, all that stuff. He's got the toothpick, yeah, you know, and Vince was a motherfucker, man. Let's just say it like that. But
did it work?
Yeah. But that's how he got on top. You know, that's how he ended up winning this thing. But so we're down to number 1. Now we got some honorable mentions here. So D-Style, if you want to go ahead and quickly go into your, I know you said you have 5 honorable mentions. Go ahead real quickly and let us know what those are, man. If you can, break them down quickly.
Brusco's, I believe, was I don't know who reminded me, but the cement truck on Vince's car. I think that was cool. Okay, Stone Cold with these trucks, bro. That was something awesome. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily like on Raw, but the double turn with Stone Cold and Bret Hart, that is one of the best worked stuff ever. Like no one's ever done it that way, and they knew it was gonna, like Bret Hart told Stone Cold, this is gonna work. You know what I mean? And it did. You know, Jericho's debut, man. Chris Jericho. Oh, yeah. The lights go off, and then bam, and the Rock's in the ring. And they have a little bit of an exchange. And I'm like, whoa, hey, I couldn't, okay. And at first, it was kind of hard to picture because Jericho was like a cruiserweight. They were jobbing him out a lot in WCW. So, like, in my mind, it was like, I mean, what is he going to do with The Rock? But they made it work, bro. He was that good. Like, for him to overcome the way he was portrayed in WCW and come to WWE and do his thing. So, the Chris Jericho debut, for sure. And then the Sting on Nitro debuting as the black and white, like the crow Sting. Like the first time I saw Sting that way, like just his presence, and I'm like, holy shit, what's this? You know what I mean? Like Sting, like for a while was a thing, man.
Great character there, man.
DDP makes the NWO believe he turned, and then he does the diamond cutter on Scott Hall, and then you know I think he did it to Nash as well. So that was kind of awesome. Tyson Stone Cold, Tyson, oh man, that one, they were pushing each other. That was kind of cool. And Goldberg's debut against Hugh Morris, they made it work. Like Humorous put him over big time. You
Big
know, he
time.
kicked out his finisher, and I just remember being like, "Oh shit!" It's like they're Stone Cold. You know what I mean? Like it was. So that's what I got.
Good stuff there, man. Chicano, you're up, man. Honorable mentions. Go ahead.
For sure. And some of these include like some non-Monday night stuff, of course, like we were
Yeah.
talking about. So some of the honorable mentions is one is Val Venus sleeping with Ken Shamrock's sister and continuously doing it, inducing Ken Shamrock's roid rage. I thought that was pretty funny when I saw it. So that would have to get the honorable mention. The Nation versus DX, I thought was a really good angle when they had that one small comedian come in and impersonate Owen Hart, you know, and do it over and over again until it pissed off Owen Hart in the back and he came out. And I thought that was a really good scene. Tyson with DX joining DX. I thought Kane's debut was successfully pulled off. I mean, for that era, kind of getting more realistic, this idea of like the Undertaker having like a brother, they did it so well and it was very believable. And they made somebody very popular right away. And it was all off of, well, of course, it was off of Kane as well, but off of Undertaker, really. So props to that. And then Hogan being the third guy is another honorable mention for me. Big shocker for me at the time.
Shamrock told that girl, I don't know if it was a real sister or not, but she was doing like fake punches, like to hit him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think someone was holding Shamrock, and you could hear him on camera say, "No, hit me harder." And then she hit him, and no, harder. And then she like popped him. She's like, "Do it again!" Like he wanted to sell it, you know? Yeah, it was crazy.
Shamrock was nuts, man. He took one of the worst chair shots I've ever seen on Raw from The Rock. If you guys, I think that's on YouTube. You can go back and watch it. Or if you guys have the network, I mean, man, he took one hell of a shot. That's one of the worst chair shots I've ever seen. But my honorable mentions are this. You know, Taz and JR, they had a segment where Taz goes out there and he makes fun of JR for having the Bell's palsy, you know, and he said, you know, I would slap you. What do you say? Something about being ugly, but it looks like God already beat me to it, you know. And JR actually hit him. Everybody hit him, and then he's like, "Okay, you hit me. Come on, JR, do it again, you know." And then Jerry Lawler ends up punching him, and then they go back and forth. Like, I thought that was a really, really cool little segment that they had there. You already mentioned it, D-Style, but man, this is one of the greatest matches of all time, in my opinion. And you are right. A double switch from Austin to babyface from heel, and Bret Hart from heel to babyface for Stone Cold, my mistake, and babyface to heel for Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. Guys, I mean, here's the thing, man. If any of you young wrestling fans come to this show and you're watching the WWE product that's happening now and the AEW product, man, go back and watch that match. That's wrestling, man. That's wrestling 101 there. I mean, just good stuff all around. Love that match. One of the best ever. Another one for me was the very first Monday Nitro that they did in the Malls of America in Minnesota, I believe. Luger takes the first swing in the war where he walks out. Nobody knows this guy is signed to WCW. It was a behind the scenes thing. He was just on the product over there at WWF, and then all of a sudden he walks out and you hear Bischoff, "Get the camera off this guy, get him out of here, he doesn't belong here." And then Bobby Heenan, always the contrary to him, like, "Well, this is a public place, he's got a right to be here," you know, like they really did a good job of making it seem like Luger was just there, you know, like he wasn't signed to WCW. Mick Foley winning the belt for the first time in a no disqualification match against The Rock. DX is there. The corporation is there outside. They start going at it. Next thing you know, boom! Stone Cold's the glass breaks. He comes out. He hits The Rock with a chair and helps Mick Foley get the world title for the first time. Huge pop. Great television there. That was one of my favorite moments. Not only that, WCW gave it away, and it really backfired on it because they said about approximately 375,000 people switched over once they gave away the results to see Mankind win the belt. And my last but not least honorable mention is, and this was quite of a shocker to me, was 1 week on Raw, the Dudley Boys. I mean, they were going on this run of power bombing women through tables. I mean, they did Terry Reynolds, Lita, and a few other people, but then they power bomb old Mae Young through a table. Not only 1 week, but then the next week she comes out, she got a neck brace, and then they do it again. This time off of the stage on the tables. Unbelievable bump took in there by Mae Young. Props to her, man. R.I.P. Mae Young, but man, she is one of the best. One of the best characters at that time, and very rarely gets talked about. But man, she did some good work then, and that was absolutely nuts in my opinion. Okay, guys. So, number one, you guys ready? You guys ready to reveal what your number one moment is of all time during or favorite moment, I should say?
You don't want to do like our worst moments really quick, just like
Sure, if you would like.
Okay. The fake Diesel and fake Razor Ramon, bro. Oh my God. I don't know what the hell. Like, I think Vince really believed that these are my gimmicks. I can make it work with anybody. Like, no, bro, that's not the way it works. I don't think he ever tried that again. Okay. That was horrible, bro. Okay. Just to me. I mean, and the finger poke of doom, horrible. And that actor, I forgot his name, winning the world championship. I don't know if you guys have some.
David Arquette. Yeah, that was disgusting, man. Really was. Just made a joke out of the business, and that's what a lot of Vince Russo stuff did, man. I mean, he did do some good things. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of stuff he did.
It's not a real sport, bro. It doesn't matter, bro. Like,
it's wrestling, bro.
Like Batman isn't real, but are you gonna have like some like a David Arquette dude beat up Batman on film? Like, no, right? What are you doing? But I don't know if you guys wanted to mention some quick, like I could have done without that thing really quick.
Those are some good ones for me, so I think I'm good.
Man, right away thinking, I would say finger poke of death. That would have been probably just the main one for me. I just think, man, WCW really overdoing it with the NWO. I mean, it was so good in the beginning, and they worked it so good, and everything was hitting, but they just really overdid it. Everybody was in it, and it just it watered it down for me, man. At the end, just
really quick, because I know you said Chief Funky. I want to specifically ask you if Chicano wants to say anything. That's cool, but you said you liked like the faction kind of aspect of WCW, but WWE tried to do that in '97 with the Disciples of Apocalypse and the Baricuas and the
DX
Nation of Domination. They got really didn't they get really racial with these stables though?
Oh yeah,
Puerto Rican Latino ones, and then you had like the white dudes and bikes and the Nation of Domination. Did you like that, G Funky? Was that like your thing?
I thought those were pretty cool. At the time it was something fresh. Because the product over at WWF was so bad. I mean, they had guys, such cartoon characters, and remember the Minotaur guy? Do you remember that dude? He used to come and walk out with this big giant bull head or something. He could barely get into the ring with that thing.
That's a garbage man, bro. Come on.
Yeah, it was bad. The Sultan, you remember that dude? The Sultan. He was.
Oh yeah.
Well, that was Rikishi.
Yeah, some of these characters were so bad, man.
There's a lot of Rikishi planting his ass in people's faces. I hated that, bro.
Yeah,
I like that.
Maybe we could do another one of these top fives, and we could do worst moments from the Monday Night War era. That would be good to do too, man. 'Cause there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them for sure.
So my number one, man, I don't know how this cannot be anybody's number one. I forgot about Mick Foley, by the way. Good call. I forgot about that. I can say this. The war's over. Vince McMahon is on TV, right? He comes out on Nitro. I remember my brother was like, "What's going on?" Because I was watching TV in my room. He's like, "What?" And I go, and I'm like, "You're watching Raw?" No, I'm watching Nitro. And Vince is on TV. Shane comes out. I remember feeling all pumped up, yeah, it says McMahon, Dad, but it's Shane McMahon. You know what I mean? I remember getting so pumped up, and I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna have WCW versus WWE now, and Shane owns WWF. Now they ruined all that. We could do another video about that another day, but that moment though was big. I'll never forget it. And I remember buying the Wrestler Observer magazine where it had a coffin that said RIP WCW.
Oh man.
or no, Nitro. It said Nitro, and it had the date when it started, when it ended. You know what I mean? I couldn't find it right now, but I'll find it one day. But yeah, that's numero uno to me. That was big. That was big.
That was big. And Brusco's, that's a moment for sure that I think needs to be in one of the worst moments when Kayatai attempted to cut Val Venus's dick off.
Was it Mae Young, or like they gave birth to like a?
Oh
what?
yeah, remember that? That was something crazy too.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and do some research on that. That was awful.
Yeah, but with that said, yeah, that's my number one. My number one is when it was over and they were on two TVs, and then on Nitro, Shivani's like, "Well, I don't know what's going to happen to us in the future," and all that good stuff.
I know D-Style was walking around his house like this. I'm like, yeah, I told you he was going to win.
And I got to be honest, though, that Sting Ric Flair match was kind of cool too.
Yeah, at the end, because they were on the first Nitro, the main event. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah. Nostalgic, you know?
For sure.
Chicano Prophet, man, are you ready to reveal your number one moment, your favorite moment of the Monday Night Wars?
Yes, indeed. So my favorite moment was the DX Corporate Royal Rumble. I remember when I was very young, I thought this was just excellent storytelling. Still is, too. This was the warm-up right to the Rumble. It was they were hyping up the Royal Rumble, and Stone Cold was going to be number one. Vince McMahon was number two, and that feud was hot. So they were having a DX Corporate Rumble to see who would be number 30. And it was ending with Triple H and Big Boss Man. And then all of a sudden, the buzzer hits, and it's Vince McMahon coming out, just yoked out of his mind.
Yeah.
And, it was really good storytelling. He comes out, flips them both over, kind of going like, what? Just taking in that heel heat. And then the buzzer hits again, and it's Chyna, and it was another huge pop. She comes down, and, she was a phenom all in of herself. So, I mean, it was just really amazing to kind of see her, and I was freaking out going, oh, my God. She's going to take on Vince, and so that was fun. And then after that, Stone Cold comes in, kind of distracts Vince. Chyna flips Vince over, and he takes a really hard bump, too. And just a lot of great storytelling, a lot of planting seeds towards future storylines, all going on at the same time. I thought that was a real culmination of what a good buildup looks like. It made me really psyched for the Royal Rumble, and that was one that really popped out in my head. So I thought I'd put that number one. That's just a favorite.
That was good stuff, man. And it was crazy to see McMahon come out all yacked up and baby oiled up. And it goes I think Jericho made a couple of jokes about him. I forgot the lines, but pretty funny stuff, man. Jericho was really good on the mic back then, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know, and everybody watching this video, what my number one moment was during the Monday Night War. And this, I have to tell a quick story while I'm telling this, because at the time that this happened during the Monday Night Wars, we didn't have cable. So I was making excuses to my mom to go to my grandmother's house so I could watch Monday Night Raw on Nitro, I would make up any excuse in the world, and we would go there, and the first thing I would do is grab the TV and turn on Raw so I could see it, So I'm taking you guys back to 1996, right? We're there. I get there just in time, and I turn on USA Network, and I'm watching, and I see Brian Kelly standing outside of Brian Pillman's house, live outside of Brian Pillman's house, where the week before, Stone Cold busted his ankle, broke his ankle. So they go on in the interview, and they're like, they're talking to Pillman about his interview, and then they're like, wait a minute, we have an idea. We hear something. Stone Cold, Stone Cold is running around here, and he goes, "Okay, that's fine." And Pillman made a good line. He goes, "Austin 316 is gonna meet Pillman 9mm." And he cocks it back, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's got a gun!" And they just couldn't believe what they were seeing. They go back and forth. There's a match in between, and they go back there. They're like, "We're live at Pillman's house," and Austin is outside beating up these guys outside of Pillman's house. And then they cut back in, and he's still sitting there on the couch with his gun. Next thing you know, Austin's breaking down the window to the door in the back. He gets through. Pillman gets up, pulls the gun on him, and then bam, the picture's gone.
We could do a whole top 5 on just Austin moments.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already thinking of others. Yeah.
Yeah. That moment right there stood out to me, man. And next thing you know, they get the power back. Pillman, he's being held back by his buddies and everything. You can actually hear him drop a F-bomb during there. He's so caught up in the moment, and that drama was so good because this is what happened. I'm there, my mom and my grandmother having a conversation about God knows what, you know. I'm locked in on TV watching this. I say, when Pillman brings out the gun, I say, oh my God, he's got a gun. And then I remember they both like, what are you talking about? I thought you were watching wrestling, you know? And I'm like, look, this is wrestling. The guy's got a gun, look. And then they're like, I never seen nothing like this on wrestling before. Like, what is this? You know, and like,
you know what it reminded me of, G Funky? I know I'll probably be familiar with this too. Like, it reminded me of novellas. Like,
yes,
it looked like a scene out of a novella. Like, it really did. I was just like, what the hell's going on here? And I completely forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
That was when, the reason why it stood out to me the most is because it was shocking to see him pull the gun. Like, no one's ever pulled a gun out on wrestling that I can remember from when I was watching it. But not only that, the drama was so good during those segments that by the end of the show, my mom and grandma were sitting on the couch with me watching the rest of the show. Like, it was it was that much drama in there, and they sat there and they watched it with me. And great television there. From what I understand now, Vince and Pillman, they had to apologize to the USA Network for that because, again, it got to the point where people were like, this is not wrestling. Like, this is something else. Like, this might be really happening, you know? And it was crazy, man.
Yeah. Wow. I remember when he attacked Vince McMahon in the hospital.
Yeah.
I just remember that. Bing. Like, yeah, I remember that. I remember when he did the Stone Cold Stunner on Vince McMahon the very first time, and Vince like botched it.
Yeah,
like, it was like the worst Sal ever, but I guess he made it work. I do remember that. Man, I'm remembering a lot of stuff, bro. It's crazy. Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me to do this because I'll tell you, like I ended up going back and watching some of these and just really good product. Just such a good product. Like it's not just like me having been at the time. Like I really do think that was just like the best era for wrestling. So it's really fun to kind of go back and there's so many good matches and so many different storylines and seeds planted towards future storylines. It was very well done for many years.
Oh, let me tell you, man. You guys remember the Sunny Days?
Oh,
shout out to Sunny.
That almost made it for me, man. That almost made it for me. That was a good one, though.
Oh yeah.
Do you think Bret Hart hit that though? I don't think so. She just doesn't seem.
Shawn was.
Oh, for sure, Shawn was. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. I think even she admitted that her and Shawn had something going on.
Yeah, they did. She was cheating on her dude with Shawn. You know what I mean?
Chris Candido, was her. Yeah.
But I would say that no, probably not. I don't think him and Bret Hart did anything, but he still threw that shot and he wasn't even happy about it and that all good stuff. You know what I mean? But to me, that was pretty cool. Also, one more really quick. I just remembered this one. It would have probably made my top 5 if I would have remembered. When the corporate ministry was going to do, I don't know what, sacrifice Stephanie McMahon.
Oh, yes.
Shamrock comes out with bad, and they stop him. And you know what I mean? And it's like the corporation couldn't save her. What are we going to do? And Stone Cold comes out, it beats up the whole ministry. That was cool. You know what I mean? And then I'll never forget JR is like, he did it because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah. And then you see at the very end when the show's going off air, he's hugging Stephanie and Vince is, thank you.
He didn't do it for Vince. He did it because it's the right thing to do. Like I always wondered, because for a moment I was like, man, well, they took out the whole corporation. What are they going to do? Like, to be honest with you, bro, like they didn't really say what they were going to do. But they were making it seem like he was going to stab her and freaking do some crazy shit. You know what I mean? But when Stone Cold came out, I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? And yeah, that was cool.
It was another shocking moment real quickly before we ended here. Another shocking moment for me was WrestleMania 15, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker, Big Boss Man. And at the end, the Brood, they come down. They hang the noose there, and they literally hang the Big Boss Man. Now, they didn't hang him for real, but man, that was some good stuff there. And props to Boss Man, and R.I.P. to Boss Man. He passed away a few years back, but man, he did a good job of selling that. Hanging from the cage as they raised it up. Undertaker did some crazy stuff, man, back then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
transitioned his character very well all along the years, from like Attitude Era to Attitude Era to past it. Like he managed his career very well, protected that gimmick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. Well,
Great
guys,
memories, man.
yes, this has been great, man. I know we normally talk boxing here, and believe me, we'll get back to that. But wrestling, man, has got a big place in my heart, man. It just brings me back to the good old days of when I was a youth and I didn't have no responsibility, bills to pay, nothing like that. You know, it was just good stuff, man. I love talking boxing. So we'll do this again, man. I don't know, maybe Chicano, man. We might have to do it on your platform, man. What do you say?
Whatever's clever, man. I always enjoy talking boxing and wrestling, so we can do it.
Yeah, man, we should definitely do more. We'll think of, you know, if you guys think of any ideas, let me know, man. We can get it done, man. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, guys. That was our top 5 favorite moments from the Monday Night War. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. Same thing to D-Style Boxing and Chicano Prophet here. This is G Funk, man, and we are out.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Thanks.
Later.